My brother held my hand at our father's funeral and told me everything would be okay. That same night, I heard him on the phone call me a loose end. The family lawyer texted me 3 words that changed everything: do not go. What happened next, I never saw coming. My name is Arya Cross, and this is the story of how I buried my brother while he was still breathing. I remember the weight of my palm against the cool glass of my bedroom window. Outside, the world was a wash of gray, the late afternoon sun struggling to pierce the thick clouds that clung to the hills surrounding our estate. It was a fitting sky for the day I buried my father. The day my life, which I had always believed was a solid, sturdy house, revealed itself to be built on sand. My father, Victor Cross, was a titan, a man of industry, of wealth, of a quiet, commanding presence that filled every room he entered. To me, he was my entire world. My mother, Margaret, had retreated into a silent, grief-stricken existence years before, leaving me to be raised by my father and my older brother, Liam. Liam, who was 5 years my senior, had always been my protector, my guide, my hero. He was the golden one, brilliant, handsome, and destined to inherit our father's empire. The funeral had been a parade of dark suits and whispered condolences. I stood beside Liam, my hand tucked into his arm, feeling the solidity of him. He was my rock, squeezing my hand gently whenever my composure threatened to crack. He delivered a eulogy that made the hardest hearts in the room soften, speaking of our father's integrity, his vision, his unwavering moral compass. I listened, my heart swelling with pride for my brother, even as it shattered with the loss of my father. When the last of the guests finally left, the caterers cleared the remnants of the reception in the great hall below. The house, a sprawling stone manor that had been in our family for generations, felt cavernous and hollow. My eyes were dry, but a deep ache resided in my chest, a physical weight that made it hard to breathe. I was staring at nothing when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up, casting a pale glow in the dimming room. I glanced at it, expecting a condolence message from a distant cousin or a business associate. Instead, the name that appeared made me frown. Mr. Harrison, Harry Harrison, our family lawyer. A man who had been a fixture at our dinner table for as long as I could remember. He was an old, kindly man with spectacles always perched on the end of his nose and a slow, deliberate way of speaking. He had been at the funeral that day, standing in the back, his face a mask of sorrow. He had hugged me tightly afterwards, his embrace frail but sincere, and whispered, "We'll talk soon, my dear, when the time is right." Now, barely hours later, he was texting me. That in itself was unusual. Mr. Harrison was a man of formal phone calls and letters typed on heavy, cream-colored paper. He did not text. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over the message. The preview showed only a few words. "Mr. Harrison, Arya, my dear, do not go to the reading of the will tomorrow. Do not go. I have just discovered something." He has, I tapped the message, my heart beginning to beat a strange, unsteady rhythm. The full text opened. "Mr. Harrison, Arya, my dear, do not go to the reading of the will tomorrow. Do not go. I have just discovered something. He has a plan, a secret plan. It will destroy you. Please trust me. I will explain. Meet me at the old boathouse at dawn. Come alone. Your brother cannot know." I read the words once. Then again. A cold trickle of fear, sharp and unfamiliar, slid down my spine. "Your brother cannot know." The words seemed to glow on the screen. My brother, Liam, the man who had just held my hand through the most terrible day of my life. What secret plan could he have? What could possibly be in our father's will that would destroy me? I thought of Liam's eulogy, his unwavering moral compass. A bitter, metallic taste filled my mouth. I looked at the text again, searching for any sign it was a mistake, a wrong number, a cruel joke. But it was Mr. Harrison's number. I had known it since I was a child. I slipped the phone into the pocket of my black dress. My movements were slow, deliberate, as if I were a character in a dream. I walked out of my room and down the long, carpeted hallway to the west wing, where Liam's suite of rooms was located. The door was ajar. I could hear his voice inside, low and smooth, speaking on the phone. I stood in the shadows, unseen. "It's all in motion," Liam was saying. There was a lightness in his voice I hadn't heard in days, a tone of suppressed excitement. The old man was the only obstacle. Once the will is read tomorrow, everything falls into place. The board is already on my side. They see her as, what did you call it? A loose end. A sentimental complication. He let out a low, soft laugh. No, she has no idea. She thinks I'm her protector. She trusts me completely. It's almost too easy. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. She always does. I felt the blood drain from my face. I pressed my back against the cold wall, my hand instinctively closing over the phone in my pocket. The screen felt hot against my palm, a silent alarm. I didn't wait to hear more. I didn't need to. The fragments I had heard were enough to form a horrifying picture. My brother, my hero, saw me as a loose end, a complication, someone to be managed and disposed of. The will, whatever it contained, was the key. I retreated to my room on silent feet. My mind, usually so orderly, was a storm of shock and betrayal. I paced, my black dress whispering against the wooden floor. Every memory I had of Liam, teaching me to ride a bike, defending me from a bully in middle school, helping me with my college applications, now seemed tainted. Was it all an act? Was he simply securing his position as the benevolent older brother, the one I would never question? I looked at the text from Mr. Harrison again. Meet me at the old boathouse at dawn. Come alone. I did not sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching the clouds slowly clear, revealing a sky speckled with cold, hard stars. I replayed my father's life in my mind. Victor had been a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He had built his company from nothing, had been ruthless in business, but I had always believed fair. He had adored me, his quiet, bookish daughter who preferred the company of horses and dogs to the glittering social events Liam thrived in. He had often said to me, "You have a good heart, Arya. Never let anyone convince you it's a weakness." Now, I wondered if my father had known. Had he seen the darkness in Liam? Was the secret plan in the will his final attempt to protect me? As the first pale light of dawn began to seep over the horizon, painting the manicured lawns in shades of silver and gold, I stood up. I changed out of my funeral dress into a simple pair of dark jeans, a thick sweater, and sturdy boots. I left my phone on the bed. I didn't want it to be traced. I pulled a small, leather-bound journal from my desk drawer, the one my father had given me on my 16th birthday, and tucked it into my jacket pocket. It felt like a talisman. I crept down the back staircase, the one used by the staff, and slipped out through the kitchen door. The morning air was crisp and cold, biting at my cheeks. The estate was vast, rolling down to a private lake that had once been a centerpiece of the property. The old boathouse, built from gray stone, had been unused for years. It was a forgotten place, shrouded by weeping willows and overgrown bushes. The path was slick with dew. I walked quickly, my breath forming small clouds in the chilly air. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see Liam's tall figure silhouetted against the house, coming after me. I reached the boathouse. The wooden door was warped and hung slightly ajar. I pushed it open, the old hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the air was damp and smelled of rot and stagnant water. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light piercing through the gaps in the walls. A rowboat, long forgotten, sat upturned in the center of the dirt floor. For a moment, I thought I was alone. Then I saw him, sitting on a rickety wooden stool in the corner. Mr. Harrison. He looked terrible. His usual composure was gone. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed, and his hands were trembling. He clutched a thick manila envelope in his lap. "Arya," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You came." "Of course I came," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I walked towards him, my boots crunching on the gravel and dirt. "What is this about, Mr. Harrison? What did Liam do?" He held up the envelope. "It's not just what he did, child. It's what he's planning to do. I've been your family's lawyer for 40 years. I drew up your father's will myself at his explicit direction. It was clear. Victor left everything to you and Liam in equal measure. The company, the estate, the liquid assets, 50% each. He made me promise to execute it exactly as written." He opened the envelope with shaking fingers and pulled out a stack of documents. "But yesterday, after the funeral, Liam came to my office. He presented me with a different will. He claimed your father had changed it 3 months before he died, in a private meeting with Liam and a lawyer I'd never heard of. This new will," his voice broke. "It leaves you a small trust fund, Arya, enough to live modestly. But everything else, the company, the estate, the majority of the assets, it all goes to Liam." Solely. The words hung in the damp air. I stared at the papers in his hands. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me, the calm that comes when a deep, gnawing fear is finally confirmed. "He forged it," I said. It wasn't a question. Mr. Harrison nodded, a tear tracing a path down his weathered cheek. "I knew your father's handwriting, his style, his wishes. This document is a forgery. A clever one, but a forgery nonetheless. The signature is close, but there are inconsistencies. The witness is a man named Robert Finch. I looked into him. He's a disgraced former notary with a criminal record. Liam paid him, I'm sure of it." "Then we can stop it," I said, a spark of fierce determination igniting in my chest. "We go to the authorities, we present the real will. We expose him." Mr. Harrison shook his head slowly, the despair deepening on his face. He pulled a second document from the envelope. It was a letter, typed on plain paper. He anticipated that. "This is why I told you not to go to the reading. Liam knows the real will exists. He plans to challenge it. And this," he held up the letter, "is his plan. He told me last night, not as a confession, but as a threat. A way to ensure my cooperation. He's going to claim that you, Arya, are the one who manipulated your father. That in his final months, weakened by his illness, you pressured him into signing the original will, the one that favors you equally. He's going to paint you as the greedy, manipulative daughter who took advantage of a dying man." My jaw dropped. That's insane. Everyone knows how close I was with Dad. But Liam, he was the one pushing him, always stressing him about business deals. The doctor said the stress contributed to his. "He's going to use your mother," Mr. Harrison said, his voice barely a whisper. "Liam has been spending time with her, Arya. While you were grieving, he's been convincing her, grooming her testimony. He's going to have Margaret stand up in front of a judge and swear that she witnessed your father's distress, that he confided in her that you were being greedy, that you were trying to take control. He's turned your own mother against you." I felt the floor drop out from under me. My mother. The woman who had retreated into a haze of grief after my father's illness was diagnosed, who had barely spoken a coherent sentence in 2 years, was now being used as a puppet by her own son. The betrayal was so complete, so monstrous, it stole my breath. "He's built a narrative, Arya," Mr. Harrison continued. "He has a witness to the forged will. He has your mother's manipulated testimony. He has the backing of the company board, who have always preferred him. He has the charm, the public presence. And he has the law firm he hired, a firm known for aggressive, underhanded tactics. If you go to the reading tomorrow, he will spring this trap. He will portray you as a villain, file a suit, drag your name through the mud. By the time the truth comes out, if it ever does, you'll be broken. He'll have control of everything." I sank onto the upturned rowboat, my legs no longer able to hold me. I stared at the dust on the floor. My entire world, the life I had known, had been not just cracked, but shattered into a million pieces. My father was gone, my brother was a predator. My mother was a pawn. I looked at Mr. Harrison. The old man was weeping silently. "Why?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Why are you telling me this? He's threatening you. You're risking everything." Mr. Harrison met my gaze, and for a moment the frail, trembling lawyer was gone. In his eyes, I saw the ghost of the man who had helped my father build an empire, who had watched me grow up, who had taught me how to play chess on rainy afternoons. "Because of a promise I made to your father on his deathbed," he said. He held my hand and he said, "Harry, take care of my girl. She's the strong one, though she doesn't know it yet. Don't let Liam's ambition swallow her. Protect her. I failed him once by letting Liam get this far. I won't fail him again. I don't care what Liam does to me. I am an old man. My reputation means nothing compared to this." He stood up, his joints popping, and placed the manila envelope into my hands. "This is a copy of the real will. The original is in a safe deposit box that only I have access to, under a different name. Here is the key." He pressed a small, brass key into my palm. "Here is my file on Robert Finch, the false witness. And here," he pointed to the letter, "is a written account of the conversation I had with Liam last night, where he outlined his entire scheme to me. I recorded it as well. The recorder is in the envelope." I looked down at the weight in my hands. It was a weapon. It was my father's final gift to me. "You have the truth, Arya," Mr. Harrison said, "but having the truth and winning with it are two different things. He's stronger than you. He has more resources. He has the board, your mother, a legal team. You are one young woman with a stack of papers. I closed my eyes. I felt the cold press of the key in my palm. I thought of my father's words. You have a good heart. Never let anyone convince you it's a weakness. I thought of Liam's laugh on the phone. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. She always does. A slow, cold fire began to kindle in my chest. It wasn't the hot, impulsive rage of a wronged person. It was something else, something calculated, something my father would have recognized. I opened my eyes. They were clear and sharp. No, I said quietly. He's not stronger, he's arrogant. And arrogance is a blind spot. He expects me to react. He expects me to be the quiet, trusting little sister who will crumble under pressure. He's prepared for me to fight him in court, to beg, to plead, to be destroyed by his narrative. I looked at Mr. Harrison, and a small, terrifying smile touched my lips. I'm not going to give him what he expects. The reading of the will took place at 10 o'clock the following morning in the grand library of the family estate. It was a room filled with leather-bound books and the scent of old wood and polish. I walked in precisely at 10, dressed in a simple gray dress, my hair pulled back. My face was a mask of quiet grief. Liam was already there, seated in our father's favorite leather wingback chair. He rose when I entered, his face a perfect picture of brotherly concern. He walked towards me with open arms. Arya, he said, his voice low and gentle. How are you holding up? I was worried when I didn't see you at breakfast. I had cook send a tray to your room. I let him embrace me. His arms were strong and warm. I had to fight the urge to shudder. I remembered his voice on the phone, a loose end, a sentimental complication. I returned the embrace briefly, then pulled away, my eyes downcast. I couldn't eat, I said softly. I needed some air. I understand, Liam said, patting my shoulder. It's going to be a difficult morning, but we'll get through it together. We always do. My mother, Margaret, was seated on a velvet chaise lounge by the window. She was dressed in black, her face pale and drawn. She looked at me, but her gaze was vacant, distant. There was no warmth there, no recognition of the daughter she had once read bedtime stories to. Liam had done his work well. My heart clenched, but I pushed the pain aside. I couldn't afford it then. Mr. Harrison was not present. In his place was a stern-faced, younger lawyer named Mr. Sterling, whom Liam introduced as our new family counsel to help manage the transition. I knew him for what he was, the captain of Liam's legal army. Mr. Sterling cleared his throat and opened a briefcase, pulling out a document. Before we proceed with the reading of the will, I am compelled to inform you both of a concerning development. He looked at me with a practiced look of sympathy. It has come to our attention that there may be a dispute regarding the validity of the last will and testament of Victor Cross. I widened my eyes, feigning confusion. A dispute? What do you mean? Liam sighed, rubbing his forehead. He looked pained. Arya, I didn't want to do this. I was hoping we could handle this privately, as a family. But Dad, in the last few months, he wasn't himself. The illness, the medication, he was confused. He was easily influenced. He walked over to me and took my hands. His grip was firm, almost too firm. I have evidence, Arya, that in his final weeks you took advantage of his condition. You pressured him into drafting a new will, one that gave you a controlling share of the company, a will that he would never have signed in his right mind. I let my face crumple. I pulled my hands away, stepping back. What? Liam, that's not true. You know that's not true. Dad and I, we talked about books, about the horses. We never talked about the company. My mother's voice, thin and reedy, cut through the air. He told me. All eyes turned to her. She was staring out the window, her hands folded in her lap. Victor came to me. He was in tears. He said Arya was demanding things. He didn't know what to do. He felt so pressured. He was so ill. The words were like ice water thrown in my face. Even though Mr. Harrison had prepared me, hearing my own mother utter the lies was a wound I hadn't anticipated. I stared at Margaret, looking for a flicker of the woman who had taught me to bake cookies, who had braided my hair. There was nothing, just the hollow shell Liam had constructed. Liam put his arm around our mother's shoulders. It's okay, Mom. You're doing the right thing by telling the truth. He turned back to me, his expression hardening. There's a will that was signed 3 months ago, witnessed by a reputable individual, that reflects Dad's true wishes. It leaves the company and the bulk of the estate to me, the one who has been working alongside him for a decade. You will be provided for, of course, Arya. You'll always have a home here. But I have a responsibility to the company, to the hundreds of employees, to uphold Dad's legacy. I can't let a manipulated document tear it apart. He was so smooth, so convincing. I could see how easily the board, the public, even my friends would believe him. I was the quiet one, the one who spent my time with books and animals. He was the charismatic leader, the heir apparent. I let my shoulders slump. I looked from Liam to my mother to Mr. Sterling. I let my lower lip tremble. I don't understand, I whispered. I don't have any lawyers. I don't know anything about this. I just lost my father. A tear slid down my cheek. It was a real tear. The betrayal was real. Liam's expression softened instantly. He walked back to me and pulled me into a hug. I know, Arya, I know. And I'm sorry it has to come to this. But we have to do what's right. I'll make sure you're taken care of. You don't need to worry about any of this legal mess. Just trust me. Let me handle it. We can avoid a long, ugly fight. You just need to sign a document acknowledging the true will, and this will all be over. You can go back to your quiet life. He nodded to Mr. Sterling, who produced a document, a waiver, an agreement to not contest the forged will. I looked at the document. Then I looked at my brother's earnest, concerned face. I saw the trap closing around me. If I signed, I lost everything, and Liam's victory was complete. If I fought, he would unleash his narrative, use our mother, and destroy my reputation, making me look like a greedy, unstable woman fighting my own family. He had prepared for every move I could make. Every move except the one I was about to make. I took the pen Mr. Sterling offered. I held it over the document. Liam's smile was a patient, benevolent thing. My mother continued to stare out the window. I set the pen down. No, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence of the library like a blade. Liam's smile faltered. Arya? I'm not signing anything, I said, my voice growing stronger. I looked directly into his eyes. Because you are a liar, Liam. You're a thief, and you've manipulated our mother, and you've disgraced our father's memory. The mask of brotherly concern slipped. For a fraction of a second, I saw what lay beneath, cold fury and panic. But he was a master performer. He quickly recovered, shaking his head with a sad laugh. Arya, I understand you're grieving. This is a lot to process, but making false accusations, it's not going to help you. It's only going to make this harder. You're right, I said, walking towards the center of the library, putting distance between us. It's going to be hard, for you. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket. You claim there's a will from 3 months ago, witnessed by a man named Robert Finch. What if I told you that Robert Finch has a criminal record for forgery? And what if I told you that I have a signed affidavit from a private investigator, dated 2 weeks ago, stating that Mr. Finch was paid $5,000 by a third party, traced back to a shell company linked to your personal assistant, 3 days before the alleged will was signed? Liam's face went still. The blood drained from his cheeks, leaving a pale, ghastly mask. Mr. Sterling stepped forward. That's a serious allegation, Miss Cross. You'll need to provide. I'm not finished, I said, my voice ringing with a newfound authority. I turned to my mother. Margaret was finally looking at me, a flicker of something, confusion, perhaps, in her eyes. Mom, you said Dad came to you in tears that I pressured him. When did this happen? Margaret looked at Liam, then back at me. Her brow furrowed. I don't it was. Was it after his 3rd round of chemotherapy? I pressed gently. When he was so weak he couldn't leave his bed? Or was it after the stroke scare, when he lost the ability to speak for 3 days? Because I was there for every appointment, Mom. I have the medical records. I have the nurse's logs. I have photos. I have a journal Dad kept where he wrote down his thoughts when he couldn't speak. I have it all. I pulled the leather-bound journal from my other pocket and held it up. In this journal, his last entry is dated the day before he died. He writes about his pride in both his children. He writes about his hopes for the company. He also writes in his own hand, I must ensure the will is solid. Harry has it. Arya and Liam, equal partners. That is the only way. They must balance each other. I looked at my mother. Dad never cried about me, Mom. He never felt pressured by me. The only time he cried was when Liam pushed him to sign over a land deal that Liam knew was unethical. Dad wrote about that too. It's all here. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. The vacant look in her eyes was replaced by a dawning horror. She looked at Liam, and this time she saw him. Not the son she had clung to in her grief, but the man he was. "Liam," she whispered, "what have you done?" Liam's composure was crumbling. His face was a battleground of rage and fear. He stepped towards me, his hands clenched into fists. "You think a few journal entries and a story about some con man are going to stand up against a legal document?" He snarled, his voice losing all its practiced gentleness. "You think anyone will believe you over me? Over Mom? I built this company while you were playing with your horses. You're nothing." I did not flinch, I held his gaze. "I'm not playing, Liam. I'm finished playing." I walked over to the grand fireplace and pressed a small, almost invisible button hidden in the woodwork of the mantelpiece. A section of the wall beside the fireplace slid open silently, revealing a wall safe. Liam stared, his face a mask of astonishment. "Dad showed me this when I was 12, I said, my voice calm. He said, "If ever you're in a situation where you need to know the truth, and the truth is being hidden, this is where you'll find it." He didn't know what the truth would be, but he wanted me to have a place to keep it safe. I spun the dial of the safe with a practiced hand, opened it, and pulled out the thick manila envelope Mr. Harrison had given me. I held it up. "This is the original, unaltered will, drafted by Mr. Harrison, signed by Dad in the presence of 2 witnesses who are still alive and of sound mind. It's dated 6 months before his death. It leaves everything to Liam and me in equal shares. Mr. Harrison has the original safe deposit box key. I have a copy here, along with his sworn statement." I then pulled out a small digital recorder. "And this," I said, pressing play, "is a recording Mr. Harrison made of a conversation with you, Liam, the night after the funeral in his office. The one where you laid out your entire plan, where you threatened him, where you bragged about turning Mom against me, where you said, and I quote, 'By the time I'm done, she'll be grateful for whatever scrap I throw her.'" Liam's voice, clear and cold, filled the library. I watched my brother's face as his own words condemned him. My mother let out a choked sob. Mr. Sterling took a step back from Liam, his professional detachment dissolving into alarm. I let the recording play for a minute, long enough for the damning essence to be unmistakable, then stopped it. I turned to Mr. Sterling. "I have multiple copies of all of this. One is with my attorney, a different attorney, one who specializes in fraud and elder abuse. Another is with a journalist at the city's largest newspaper. A third is in a safety deposit box at a bank in a different city, the key to which is in the possession of my friend Alara, who is waiting in a car down the driveway." I looked back at Liam. His face was white. All the arrogance, the charm, the golden boy facade was gone. In its place was a terrified man who had just realized his trap had been empty all along. "You see, Liam," I said, my voice soft but carrying the weight of every tear I had shed, every moment of fear I had felt reading Mr. Harrison's text. "You made one mistake. You thought I was weak. You thought because I was quiet, because I didn't want the power, because I loved you, that I would just lie down and let you take everything. You prepared for me to fight your way. You didn't prepare for me to have the truth." I walked towards him. He didn't move. I stopped a foot away from him, looking up into his eyes. I saw nothing of my brother there. No memory of the boy who had taught me to ride a bike. Just a stranger wearing his face. "You're going to walk out of this house, Liam," I said. "You're going to call your lawyers, and you're going to tell them that you made a mistake. You're going to acknowledge the original will. You're going to resign from the board. You're going to leave this estate, and you're going to take nothing but the clothes you came with. And if you ever try to come back, if you ever try to contact Mom, if you ever try to spread a single lie about me or Dad or what happened here, these documents don't go to a judge. They go to the district attorney. And then they go to every newspaper, every news channel, every blog that will publish them. You won't just lose the company, you'll lose your freedom. You'll lose everything you ever pretended to be." I let the silence stretch. I could hear my mother's soft weeping, the crackle of the fire in the grate, the distant sound of a car engine idling in the driveway. "So what's it going to be?" I asked. Liam stared at me for a long, terrible moment. I saw the calculations running behind his eyes, the fight, the denial, the counterattack. But I also saw the truth he couldn't escape. I had him. Every move he could make would only make his fall harder. The fight went out of him. His shoulders slumped. He looked for a moment, not like a titan of industry, but like a defeated, petty man. He turned without a word and walked towards the door of the library. He paused at the threshold and looked back at me. There was no apology in his eyes, only a cold, bitter hatred. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low. "It is," I replied. "For you, it is." He walked out. The front door of the manor opened and closed. A moment later, I heard the sound of a car engine starting and the crunch of gravel as he drove away. The silence that followed was immense. I stood in the center of the library, the envelope and the journal still clutched in my hands. I felt no triumph, only a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. I had just dismantled my own family. I had just buried my brother, not in the ground, but in the truth of who he was. I felt a hand on my arm. It was my mother. Her face was wet with tears, her eyes no longer vacant, but filled with a raw, agonized awareness. "Arya," she whispered. "Oh, my baby, what did I do? What did I let him make me do?" I looked at my mother. The anger I had felt was gone, replaced by a deep, aching pity. I knew she was not blameless, but I also knew she had been a woman broken by grief, manipulated by a son she had wanted to believe was good. The path to forgiveness would be long, and it would be hard. But it was a path I was willing to walk. I took her hand. "We're going to be okay, Mom," I said. "It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay." I led her to the chaise lounge and sat with her, holding her hand while she wept. Mr. Sterling, his face pale, quietly gathered his papers and left without a word. The grand library, which had been a courtroom, was now just a room where a family was beginning to piece itself back together. A week later, I stood in the cemetery. It was a different day, bright and clear, the sky a brilliant blue. I was alone, standing before my father's grave. The fresh earth had settled, and a simple headstone of gray granite marked the spot. I knelt and placed a single white rose on the stone. I didn't say anything for a long time. I just looked at his name, carved into the stone, and felt the weight of his absence. "I did what you would have done," I finally said, my voice soft. "I used the truth, and I didn't let anyone convince me my heart was a weakness." I thought about the past week. Liam had done as I demanded. His resignation from the board was submitted the next day. A statement was released, citing personal reasons and a desire to pursue other interests. The forged will was withdrawn. The original will was filed. I was now the co-owner, with the company trust, of the empire my father had built. I had no intention of running it. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I would learn. I would surround myself with people who had integrity, people my father would have trusted. I would not let Liam's ambition be the legacy. My mother was seeing a therapist. It was a slow process, but the fog in her eyes was lifting. We had sat together for hours one evening, looking through old photo albums, and she had remembered, for the first time, the day I was born. It was a small thing, but it was a start. And then there was Mr. Harrison. He had called me the day after the confrontation. His voice was stronger, lighter. "I heard you handled yourself well, my dear," he had said. "Your father would have been proud. He always said you were the strong one." "I had a good teacher," I had replied. "Thank you for being brave enough to text me." He had laughed, a rusty but genuine sound. "It was the bravest thing I've done in 40 years. My wife is still scolding me for not telling her sooner. She says I've taken 10 years off her life." I smiled at the memory, looking down at my father's grave. I touched the cool stone. "I miss you," I whispered, "but I'm going to be okay. We all are." I stood up, brushing the dirt from my knees. As I turned to leave, I saw a figure walking towards me along the cemetery path. It was Alara, my best friend, her face bright with the sun. She was holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "I thought you might want some company," Alara said, coming to stand beside me. She looked at the grave, then at me. "How are you?" I took a deep breath, letting the crisp, clean air fill my lungs. I looked at the blue sky, the green hills in the distance, the simple dignity of my father's grave. I felt the weight of the past weeks, the shock, the fear, the cold, calculated fury. I felt the loss of my brother, the fragile hope for my mother, the quiet gratitude for an old lawyer's courage. I was not the same woman who had stood in my bedroom, staring at a text message that had shattered my world. That woman had been trusting, sheltered, defined by my father and my brother. This woman, standing in the sunshine with dirt on my knees and truth in my hands, was someone new. "I'm okay," I said, and for the first time since my father's death, I meant it. I took Alara's arm. "I really am." We walked together down the winding path, away from the grave. I did not look back. I had buried my father and I had buried the lies. The future, uncertain and vast, stretched out before me. But I faced it not with fear, but with the quiet, unshakable knowledge that I had within me the only thing that had ever truly mattered: the courage to know the truth and the strength to make it known. My story is no longer the story of a girl defined by the men in my life. It is the story of a woman who wrote her own name, in her own hand, on the first page of her own life. And it is a story I was finally ready to begin.